You might have some beliefs that have kept you stuck for literally decades, not moving forward. That is not beyond God. Like, he just, when you think of who Jesus is, who his Father is, and who they've been throughout history, who the Holy Spirit is, you're dealing with someone who's really good at redeeming wasted hours, days, months, years, decades. So give it to him and trust him and ask for his beauty and his just who he is to shine through your journey and your story, because I think you're going to look back on something that's really incredible. Hi, I'm Amy Nicole, and these are my thoughts. This nail represents, I don't know if I held that high enough. This nail represents you. And this screw represents a belief or thought or unhelpful mindset that you have. And this string, I think I'm going to cut that down a bit. This string represents the invisible chain that keeps you tied to it, constantly tripping you up. So this is your life. I have no idea if this little demonstration is going to work, but we're just going to roll with it. All right. Take 5 or 6. I can't remember which one we're on. Okay. So I am going to talk about this, but I first want to say that your brain is a belief or mindset building machine. So, you might have kind of a default mindset or really, really, really strong belief that as much as you know in your head that God is trustworthy, in your heart of hearts, you do not believe it. And so if you are trying to set out on some kind of adventure, whatever that looks like, and you're in this space, I'm assuming that you're probably here because you have something on your heart that you really want to do for Jesus, that he's called you to, he's inspired you to. And as you set out to do that, you might have this default belief that you may or may not be aware is even there, but you have this default belief that he's not really trustworthy. Of course, you've read all the Bible verses, you've heard the stories, you get inspired by other people's stories, but you've got this default, I've said that like 5 times now, you've got this default belief that he's not trustworthy, and no matter how hard you try, you cannot find a way to actually trust him. And it's like you're constantly fighting against yourself. So hence why, like I said before, this represents you. This screw represents your life and, your belief. This lovely piece of ugly wood represents your life. And this string represents the chain that keeps you tied to that belief. Let's say that what you want to do, your goal is somewhere off to the side of the camera and you're aiming for that, right? So until you find a way, I really hope I have no idea if I had any of that in this screen. Hopefully it was. Okay, so until you learn how to release that unhelpful belief, you're never going to be able to move or work in the direction that you want to work. We might all be laughing like a year from now at how ridiculous this example is, but I'm just going to keep on rolling with it as I try to get the nail back on the string. All right, so, okay. First I want to talk about just beliefs and mindsets. Your beliefs and like the things that, or your mindset, it's sort of like the rules. It's like we all grow up you could grow up in the same home with with your siblings, and you all have the same experience, but not quite. So we all have our own experiences, our own, just the way that we perceive life, that like beliefs are sort of like you could think of them as the rules for life that you create. They're not necessarily, they're really not totally based on reality, but they're based on your experience. So you might have a certain experience as a kid, and then you created some kind of belief that let's say you could have like parents that were totally there for you, and yet you had some kind of experience or an ongoing experience where you came to the conclusion that the only person you can really trust is yourself. And so then you form a handful of beliefs around that, and then you go through life only really trusting yourself and always kind of closing yourself off to other people. And at any time that you could, or that you are working to trust your spouse or a friend or whoever, or your parents again, then you just find ways to self-sabotage. And so because like at a young age you had a certain experience and you created a rule for life that I am the only person who will take care of me. And beliefs come in all shapes and sizes, and there's lots that could be said about this. But what I want to say is that basically you could think of it as we each have our own unique set of boundaries and rules for how life works. And we are really, really, really good as human beings at sticking within those boundaries. Okay, so the other point I just wanted to make was that your beliefs will either enable you to do your kingdom work, or they are going to constantly trip you up and make it extremely hard. And just for reference, like over the past several years, I've probably worked through, I want to say like 10 to 20 kind of really big ones, but it's probably been more like 30 to 40. Just as I'm journaling and working through things, I'm like, oh wow, I'm stuck there. Or I'm really working on something specific, and it could be like what would be a belief? Oh, okay. So like this is one I'll be talking about it in a future video, but just this last week, I was talking with my uncle about confidence. We were talking about confidence. And I realized as we were talking about that, and as I kept on thinking about it, like in the next couple of days, was that I equate confidence, which I really need, with being unteachable. If I want to be a confident person, I have to become an unteachable person. Once I was able to say those words, I do not believe that. And my uncle, it was funny, he was like, not at all. It's totally not how confidence works. And yet I've got this belief that has been keeping me from becoming confident, and where I almost just like resist anything that I would hear about. I would gravitate to, if someone's talking about confidence, it is a really beautiful thing to me and I want it. And yet I just like never sits right, because I feel like in order to be confident, I have to become unteachable, and I have to become a proud person who isn't willing to listen to anybody. So as you can see or imagine, that would create a really big conflict. So for me, I'm like, this is me, this is a belief, and I'm working towards this goal of you kind of need confidence to help people and to have a YouTube channel, and confidence just kind of helps. So I've got this like I'm working toward this thing, and confidence along with it's not just like one belief as I'm working towards this goal. There can be many, many, many things, but right now the confidence one is what I'm working with. So as I'm working towards that, what that creates is that like the string, obviously you can see it now, but most of us were not aware of our beliefs. So I'm working towards that, and it just creates this resistance that I can't, let's say for the purpose of this demonstration, is that this isn't like you can't fight against your beliefs. So what happens, and what has always happened in the past, is that your belief, it almost becomes, it's just always easier for us to stay within the comfort zone of our belief. So this dynamic is often what creates this. We're going after something. We know that it's what God has put on our heart. It's that thing that is so easily awakened in you that you're just like, yes, this is what I really want to do with my life. And yet there's this struggle that when you work towards it, there's just this dilemma, or this could show up where it just, anytime you could have time to work towards it, you're not creating that time, or you're not taking that time or that opportunity, or whatever it is. It shows up in many, many, many different ways. This is going to be what my YouTube channel is about, God willing. That's my plan. And so there's just this dilemma, right? So all that said, the real reason why you get stuck is because there's some kind of belief that just, you can't resist it. You need to free yourself from it and release that unhelpful belief. And so for me, like with the confidence thing, no, sorry, I need to finish that thought. You need to release it, or else you're going to forever be stuck you're never really going to let go of what you're working towards, but you're always going to be stuck coming back to just being in that comfort zone. So it's kind of like you're resisting it, whatever that looks like. You hit that wall that you can't break through, and then you come back to your comfort zone. Something happens, you hear some really good message about going after God and giving all for him, and then that dream gets awakened again, and then you start to go, like, it's like, okay, you're here, you can see what you're working towards, you start to work towards it, and then you hit that wall again and you can't break it. So it is an extremely helpful tool. I hope it wasn't, I don't know, I'm hoping that you guys can see this, and I'm hoping that I'm not blocking the mic from picking up my voice. So what you need to do is simply learn the tools to release that belief, and you are free to go. I wanted to throw the nail in that direction, but just in case I need it again. Okay, so I think that's all I needed that for. Before I continue, I just want to say that I do have a 5-day free mini course that is called Step of Faith mini course. Every time I've tried to say this, I have totally butchered it. So anyway, it is a free 5-day. It is the Step of Faith 5-day free mini course. Grab it in the link below. All right. So over the course of your life and your walk with God, and I find in a very unique, special way, in the work that he has given you to do, your life's calling, your kingdom work, whatever you want to call it, it's just one of those things that is very near and dear to my heart. And I really love the way that it's a unique foundation or platform, or it's like the arena where our beliefs and our journey with God, how do I say it? Like it just gets worked out in a very unique way, because if all you do is stay in your comfort zone, it's not a salvation issue to work through this, but it really, like, I don't know. Okay, I'm just convinced, like, do something for God. Go out of your comfort zone. And as believers, we should be, my dad would always say how we're on a pilgrimage versus like it's helpful to create a pilgrimage versus a settlement mentality, because when you settle, you stay within your beliefs, your own individual beliefs and mindsets, the cultural mindset. You might start going to a church, and then you just all have kind of that same mindset, and that's not bad, but it's also can really keep you from truly knowing who God is, and because you're never necessarily coming up against those, like, you're never having this kind of like, okay, you're hitting a wall or you're stuck, and it's almost like this, you start tripping over your own feet, and you look back and you're like, or you trip over something. It's that feeling of tripping and stumbling over something, but then you look back and you're like, there's nothing there. And it's just this weird kind of, I don't know how to describe it besides that. For me, it's just like, I feel like I start to walk through sludge, and then I'm like, this should be easy, because it's, just simply make a video, make some notes, write an email, whatever the next step is that I need to do. For my specific work, for you, it's going to be different, but it's like, I know what I need to do, and yet I'm hitting this internal wall, or I might find that it's hard to breathe, or I'm like really sleepy or sick to my stomach, or something just weird is sitting there. And so then I go and I just start talking to God about it, and I journal. And so that would be like a big thing that you can do, is just to become aware. Like step 1 is just become aware of what's actually going on. And so if you have something that you've been wanting to do for a long time or a short time, and it's hard to do it, this might be what is tripping you up. Like, you might have something that's really holding you back. I had to restart the video. What was I saying? That you might have something that's really holding back or tripping you up. And the best first thing you can do is just to become aware of what's going on and start to work through that. And so, like, for my example before, when I was talking to my uncle and had said, and I find that a lot of this stuff comes up when I'm talking to someone I can trust, because then I'm not trying to say the right thing. I'm just saying what I feel. And I don't, like, once it comes out of my mouth, I'm like, I don't agree with that. And yet I feel it so strongly. And I'm like, I'm living my life from that place, with this belief where you're living from within this comfort zone, or from, like, that's such a driving factor in your life. And so that's a place that you're living from, and you don't agree with it and you don't like it. But until you learn to identify it and then let it go, and you hold on to truth, and this isn't just like a moment process. Sometimes, you could realize, wow, this is what I believe, this is the truth, and then let's go. And sometimes it happens very quickly, other times it takes a little bit more time, but it's still the same process of become aware, let go of that lie, hold on to truth, and then take action in line with that truth. Or that it's not necessarily, like, it could be right, it could be something that would be, like, if I'm struggling to trust God, and then I hold on to the truth, and especially the truth in the Bible about how trustworthy he is, and so, like, the action steps that I'm going to take, it could be, I know that he's true, and I'm reminding myself of his promises. Sorry, I said true, I meant trustworthy. I'm reminding myself of his faithfulness and his promises, and like the stories, these real stories of how he has been faithful throughout all of time. And yet the action that I'm going to take might be to hit that record button and record. So what I'm saying is that big, like the truth, as you are holding on to, or as you're reforming your beliefs, and just upgrading little by little, day by day, just upgrading your beliefs. You might have these really big truths that you're holding on to, and yet your action step needs to be super small, super specific and practical, and just do that next step. But it's amazing how it really, at least for me, it might be different for other people, but it really does have this kind of like, just this like feeling of, you just sort of slip out from, almost like, this thing that you've been so stuck in, you just are kind of, it almost has this feeling of someone like holding you, and then you're like, yeah, I'm good, a little too much, and you just like slip out of their side hug and keep on walking. So I don't remember if I had said this before, but even if I did, I just want to reiterate that I think that when you are doing your kingdom calling, your work, your, like, that thing that Jesus has called and equipped you to do, there is just something that is so unique and so beautiful about it, because again, that's that arena that you are working out your walk with him, that you're like, you get to experience him in a very unique way. So let's say, even if it doesn't amount to like something huge, that's not the point. It's that you really get to know him, because when you, like, if you never have this tension in your life and then work through it, the thing is, this tension, it is what, or when you come up against that wall, that where you start to realize, okay, I've got some kind of belief about myself, about others, about how the world works, and especially about how God works. If you never come up against that, you miss the opportunity to know what the truth is. And so, like, it takes these things that we might know in our heart, that we read in his word, and we know, like, as Christians, we know these truths, and yet it takes sometimes walking certain things out to actually experience it, and where you have to wrestle through it for those truths to go deep into who you are, and to really transform who you are and how you carry yourself as a Christian. So lots can be said here. We're going to wrap that up, and I'll wrap it up with saying, give it time. Don't be critical of yourself. Don't blame yourself. Don't blame others. Don't blame God. Get curious and journal as much as you need to. And you might start to become aware of something, and 5 days later, all of a sudden, you're going to have an aha moment where you realize, oh, that's really what's going on here. Okay, let's start working with this. And also, a really big thing is that you might have some beliefs that have kept you stuck for literally decades, not moving forward. That is not beyond God. Like, He just, when you think of who Jesus is, who His Father is, and who they've been throughout history, who the Holy Spirit is, you're dealing with someone who's really good at redeeming wasted hours, days, months, years, decades. So give it to Him and trust Him and ask for His beauty and His just who He is to shine through your journey and your story, because I think you're going to look back on something that's really incredible. And even as you learn to work through it, just watch who He is in your story as well, because you're going to, like, where you might see how you have delayed and dawdled, and then, you start to realize, like, wow, we've just been holding on, like, you've been believing lies that have been keeping you stuck. You're likely going to look back, if you commit to the journey with Him, which as Christians, that's what we got to do every day. But if you keep on committing to this, you're going to look back on a life and a journey of His faithfulness. And I think you're really going to like what you see and experience with Him. So I'm praying for you. I'm in your corner, and in the next several videos, I'm going to be just blabbing as I'm learning how to talk on camera and kind of how I want to structure my YouTube videos. I'm going to be talking about my own just different beliefs and things that I've had to work through, and some things that I've done to work through those, just so that you can get, if this is helpful for you, it's just so that you can kind of get an idea of how to, I guess I'm hoping that it'll just sort of help you simplify the process, kind of, or just, I don't know. You know how sometimes it just is helpful to hear someone else go through something or give examples of what they're going through, so that makes it a little bit easier for you. That's basically what I'm trying to do. So that's all for this time, and I will see you soon. I need a screw, I need a nail, and I need a string. So I'm gonna go get that.